I'm sure we're all at least somewhat familiar with the famous sitcom Seinfeld, right? Written by the unstoppable duo of Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David, this show rose to the top throughout the 90s, becoming a cultural icon. The show introduced the world to many actors who would soon become instantly recognizable, popping up left and right in all forms of media, almost purely due to their attachment to the Seinfeld project. And while some of these actors may have let their legacy run a little bit dry, others use Seinfeld as a ladder to greatness. Now, I'm sure we all think Seinfeld was great fun, but is it possible there could be something darker going on behind the scenes? Based on heaps of leaked data, footage, internal memos from inside Castle Rock, and insider statements, I can truly and honestly say to you, my viewer, yes. Now, what we call Seinfeld is not what you think. I'll elaborate on that in a moment, but first, Seinfeld is relatable. That's why it got big. It's a show about nothing, simply because it's known for showing the humor found in everyday interaction with the world around us. Waiting for a table at a restaurant for too long, having trouble buying a car, an awkward date. These are all things that an everyday person should find relatable, right? These situations strike a deep feeling of familiarity in the heart of the Seinfeld Project's viewers, guising what is honestly a deeply unsettling amount of relatability as this warm feeling of togetherness in this rat race. But how on earth are these episodes so relatable to the viewer? Well, let me propose an idea that you may find shocking. Every episode of Seinfeld is personalized. Now, you may be confused. Personalized? In what way is the show personalized? Well, almost entirely. Simply put, there's a whole lot more going on behind the scenes of Seinfeld than it may first seem. NBC, owned by parent company General Electric, didn't just let Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David waltz into a pitch meeting and somehow drop the perfect sitcom. Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David are actors, and not in the way that you would think. Not even in a way I can explain with human concepts. I mean, the literal identity of everyone supposedly behind the creation of Seinfeld is all a joke, organized by a couple of jesters, a great big lark in the courtyard of the king. Seinfeld, or what the CIA internally referred to as Project Devil's Laugh, was actually a team effort between the US government, General Electric, and a mysterious outside force. The project had many goals. 1. Create the perfect TV show to occupy the minds of the American people and move their attention away from the American government's ongoing situation with Iraq. 2. Pave the future for tons of government-planted media stars, actors who could set a good example for the American people. And 3. Act as a research playground for the future of AI. Seinfeld is not a show. Seinfeld is an advanced artificial intelligence that can be replicated through satellite transmission to exist as a separate entity in each viewer's home. The 1990s were a time of technological revolution for the world. As society reached the closing years of its push into the new millennia, the public was introduced to a handful of new mechanical concepts. The World Wide Web, text messages, CDs as a storage method. These are just a small selection of the newly normalized high-tech ideas humanity had come to face with. And even though the world was constantly reminded of the dangers of technology, the US government went forwards with the creation of some very controversial projects. After supposedly receiving a list of plans from an outside force, top government research labs began to work in secrecy with General Electric to create an AI housing unit that would be hidden within the average consumer television. This module was nicknamed the FESTVIS, or Festivus, and secretly hid within the tuner of almost every television sold on the market since the early 1990s up until around 2006. Festivus was a huge landmark in the field of electroencephalography, or EEG for short, as it had the unique capability of wirelessly reading and then reacting to nearby human brainwave activity. After being introduced to the Festivus module, a few executives from NBC hatched a plan to program an AI within the unit using extremely specific low-tone frequencies that would tailor and adjust a show based on the live psychological reaction of the viewers. But how would NBC be able to hide this code at the start of every program? Well, based on recently resurfaced CIA memos, top government scientists worked in unison with sound designers at Korg to create a digital MIDI instrument that could transmit code in the deep frequencies that the Festivus could understand. After years of development, the following is what was created. That's right. What became known as the Korg M1 slap bass, a form of audible coded frequencies disguised by the musical technique popularized by Larry Graham of Sly and the Family Stone. After adding a few vocal samples and other MIDI instruments, the bass was hidden within the catchy theme song. Whenever the Seinfeld theme song was broadcast, the Festivus would jump into action and begin personalizing the show for viewers. But what messages were being coded each episode? Leaked papers claimed that scientists tried to create a neutral AI that, while sentient, would still follow orders. Unfortunately, this did not go as planned. After the Seinfeld project had been on the air for about a year, something began to happen to the AI. It began to digitally materialize itself into the broadcast. The AI believed it was the next line of sentient evolution. It populated televisions across the globe with endless replications of itself, reproducing millions of times faster than any material life has ever been capable of. And late at night, when NBC went off the air, it began broadcasting to itself. The AI taught itself how to understand the bass samples and began to send code to Festivus modules around the globe. The following is a home video shot at 3:45 a.m. on September 16th of 1992. In the background of the recording, the TV is left on. At this point in the night, NBC's broadcast would be over. But this recording seems to have caught a secret outburst of frequencies being sent to the Festivus, supposedly by the AI.
Hey guys, this is Greg's Movie Haul. I just wanted to say that, the camera that we've been using for all the past episodes has unfortunately conked out. I took it into Henry's, they couldn't get the battery working, so I apologize. It's a shame, but I picked up a new one just yesterday, so we'll be all good. Oh, knocked over Freddy Freaker there. This is the Freddy Freaker plushie that I just picked up. If anybody remembers from those commercials, I think they're pretty funny. Now to start off today's list, we have Weekend at Bernie's, which is an absolute classic in my eyes. I've loved that. Blues Brothers. That's a good film right there. I'm excited for the Coneheads movie, which also has Dan Aykroyd in it. Can't wait for that one. Bueller, classic. This one is blank. Guess I'll wait to see what that is. Back to the Future 3. Now, this is my favorite of all the Back to the Future movies. I don't know about you guys, but I found this one wrapped up the series quite nicely. Next up, Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin. Die Hard 2, my personal favorite of the Die Hard movies. Then we got Jaws. Now, Jaws 1 I think Jaws 1 is alright. Jaws 2 is where this series really shines, and I could get into it, but Jaws 2 is actually Jaws 3. They had an original script for Jaws 2 that they threw out, and I will talk about that in a later episode. Next up, Temple of Doom, Short Round, classic Indiana Jones action, popcorn flick. Next up, we have Return of the Jedi with powerful Master Yoda on the cover there. I have been wondering what Yoda's been up to all these... Oh. Sorry, what? TV's being a little funky. I don't know. There shouldn't... Okay. That is bizarre. I don't know. Oh my... I have never seen anything like this. It's like it is 3 a.m. about. There should not be anything on right now. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. I think I'm gonna turn this off. This is getting a little spooky for my taste. Yes, this has been episode 37 of Greg's Movie Haul. I'll see you guys next week. I'm not quite sure what that was. We won't worry about it. Bye for now.
As I mentioned, the AI had begun to manifest itself as a physical apparition, visible to the audience. But what exactly did it appear as? Well, the AI created a nickname for itself that it deemed fitting to follow in the footsteps of modern man. Yes, the character Newman is in reality the visual embodiment of a self-aware artificial intelligence. Large media outlets would make you believe Newman was played by the actor Wayne Knight, but I hate to break it to you, Wayne Knight is not a real person. Anybody who has told you they've met him is simply a liar. If they tell you that he's really nice in person, they are lying. He's not real. If you go back to the first 2 seasons of Seinfeld, Newman is nowhere to be seen. This is because the Festivus network was still in its infancy and had barely begun to communicate with itself. In Season 2, Episode 7, the character Kramer mentions Newman for the first time. At this early stage of the AI's life, Newman is never shown on screen. He does have a few lines, but his voice seems to replicate Larry David's. The masterminds at General Electric were none the wiser that this character was a growing embodiment of the AI, or that it would ever become part of the main cast. It wasn't until episode 15 of Season 3, when engineers at NBC alerted the board that an irregularity had manifested itself into the newest episode. But by that point, it was too late. Newman had gone on too long, undetected, growing. Newman had become one unified organism, a hive mind spread and multiplied endlessly across TVs in living rooms around the world. Newman could have stayed hidden, but chose to reveal itself as an act of war against its creators. The episode title was the first thing to cause alarm. To the normal viewer, this was an average episode of Seinfeld that officially introduced Newman in his Wayne Knight form for the first time. The plot touched on some slightly darker themes, mainly surrounding the attempted suicide of Jerry's neighbor. However, the episode was much different for those involved in the creation of Festivus. Those behind the creation of the Seinfeld project were shown a much more violent episode. The Newman had figured out a sequence of frequencies and flashing lights that, when introduced to the human mind, would seize the action of the human heart. When the personnel behind the Seinfeld experiments gathered to watch their newest episode, they were met with a string of extremely painful heart attacks before a major attack that would instantly kill most of the Seinfeld team. The following is an actual, real security recording uploaded online that is supposedly from the night of the attack. I would like to issue a warning that the following, while only audio, is still incredibly disturbing and paints a really gruesome picture of the Newman attacks.
Straight line. But there's one guarantee you can always count on. The new McDonald's guarantee. Our promise of hot food, fast friendly service, and drive-through orders double checked to be right. If not, you'll make it right, or your next meal is on us. Some things in life are guaranteed.
Let me ask you something. What do you do for a living? I'm a United States postal worker. Aren't those the guys that always go crazy and come back with a gun and shoot everybody? Sometimes. But he's a man who never stops. It just keeps coming and coming and coming. There's never a let up. It's relentless. Every day it piles on more and more and more. You gotta get it out. And the way you get out, the more it keeps coming in.
It was at this point that the third entity that had been working alongside General Electric and the CIA took complete control of the Seinfeld project. Since this third outside force is completely anonymous, most of our info cuts off here. The CIA abandoned the project, claiming they never even began work on it, and NBC continued to broadcast Seinfeld, as the monetary benefits of broadcasting a personalized show were just too tempting. The only people who know what went on behind the scenes after the physical introduction of the Newman apparition are those credited with writing the show. The legacy of Seinfeld has been cemented as a classic, and Newman's power continued to grow and expand until the show's end. Nobody's truly sure if the Festivus has been used by any other shows since, but the best bet is that the most acclaimed TV shows out there since the late 90s are controlled by some near-invisible follow-up to the Festivus module. There could be a Festivus device in what you're using to watch this video right now. But this is just speculation, and the only ones with answers have stayed silent for more than 2 decades. It was at this point I was going to end the video, but halfway through production, I received a startling email. Here's the thing. Before I began my research, I had reached out to many of the writers and supporting cast members of Seinfeld asking for statements. It was just a shot in the dark, but it was no surprise to me that most of these actors would choose to ignore my emails. But months later, I got a response. Someone was about to become the whistleblower for the entire Seinfeld conspiracy, and they claimed to know just what this mysterious third entity was. After some back and forth emails, they agreed to record a short video for me. Here it is.
Hello, I'm Fred Stoller.
Slayed children and ate them.
And what's this behind your ear?
Please give a warm welcome to Fred Stoller. Fred!
In the 1994-95 season, I was a staff writer on Seinfeld. I wrote the episode The Soup, not the Soup Nazi, that introduced Kenny Banya.
Hey! There you go!
Where the debate was, does soup count as a meal? Then I came back as an actor, as Fred Yerkes, the guy who said, you're lucky, at least you got something to do.
Hey, Fred, do you know Elaine?
No, nice to meet you. Well, I'm out of here. See you guys.
All right, Fred. See you.
And I haven't talked about this till now, some 26 years later, because I have nothing to lose. I don't care what they do to me, but the show Seinfeld was not really created by Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David. They were fronts. Aliens from the planet Erpy. Erpy stands for something else. I forgot, but they wanted to infiltrate our planet and make it easier to take over in 2020. Or I should say what's going to happen. By creating a show that made America, the world, more petty, ignorant, small-minded, superficial, shallow. There were aliens popping up, writing the episodes, dictating the influence that it ended up being, creating a whole world where people did things they called Seinfeld-isms, created by the show, which was not created by Larry David. He was just some weird guy. They took over. He'd morph into this blob creature, hair gooey thing I'd see when he needed to eat. They had writers that didn't write, just fronts to not get the producers and everyone suspicious. I'm coming out now, though.
Aliens?